Hi, my name is Mark Wade, and I'm here at Flushing Town Hall with the Queens Jazz Overground, a nonprofit jazz collective in residence at Flushing Town Hall. We're here today for our Spring Jazz Fest 2014 Jazz Festival. It's 10 hours of free jazz programming, including educational programming and professional bands that start during the night. I'll be performing tonight with my own group, the Mark Wade Trio, and we'll be performing a number of original compositions and selections. So thank you very much.
Hi Dino, my name's Amanda Monaco. I'm the Director of Operations for the Queens Jazz Overground, and today is our annual Spring Jazz Fest. We featured school bands from middle schools and high schools in Queens during the day, and tonight we are having 7 professional bands, all led by musicians who are based in Queens. And the entire day is free, thanks to the generous support of the Queens Council for the Arts, M&T Bank, and the Josephine Foundation. And our website is www.queensjazz.org.
Overground and Flushing Town Hall presents Spring Jazz Day 2014. Thank you very much for being here. Yes, there you go. We got applaud. There you go. My name is Mark Wade. I am the Director of Development and a bass player for the Queens Jazz Overground. And I just wanted to say a few words here tonight. If you could make sure you turn off all your cell phones, all that good stuff for the performers. Today's event is a 10-hour jazz festival, a free event made possible by our sponsors, which is the Queens Council on the Arts, Josephine Foundation, and the M&T Bank. If you would like to be a sponsor to help us to continue to bring these free events, if you look at your program, there's an envelope in there that you can put a donation in and drop it in the box downstairs, 2 clear plastic boxes. We would really appreciate your donation, as well as the survey form that's in there. It really helps us with feedback so that we can keep bringing you this great programming here. Also, if you hear, you'll hear a number of bands tonight. If you like what you hear, just go downstairs and there are CDs for sale, a t-shirt if you want a memento from your experience here at Flushing Town Hall, and also beer, wine, soda, snacks, all kinds of good stuff that you can munch on while you drift from room to room to hear all the great bands tonight. So, without further ado, tonight's first group that's starting off here, Sam Sedegurski, Josh Deutsch, Danny Fox, Sam Trabchek, Alex White. Please give a nice round of applause for Lazy Susan.
Thank you so very much. And thank you for being here at the second annual Queens Jazz Overground Festival. This band on stage with me is called Lazy Susan. It's a brand new project that's a collective, meaning we all compose for this band. And everybody you see on stage is a proud Queens resident. Yeah, give it up for Queens. That's actually part of the reason that this organization started, the Queens Jazz Overground. There were so many musicians living in Queens, and we noticed that we kept having to go to Manhattan or Brooklyn to play, so we decided to try to change that. So we're very happy to be playing for you right here in our home borough of Queens. That first tune we played was by our fantastic clarinetist, Mr. Sam Sadigersky of Forest Hills. It was called Do the Dance. And we're going to continue on now with a piece by our drummer, Alex White. This is called Package for 5 Beat.